5 Live Drive.
Well, Dr. Rupert Read is from the University of East Anglia and the author of Parents for a Future. Joins us now. Hello, welcome to the programme.
Hello.
What do you make of this U-turn from Rishi Sunak?
Well, I think the question we ought to start with here is why wasn't he going to go in the first place? And the answer can only be that he doesn't understand the gravity of the threat that we face. So my first message to Mr. Sunak this afternoon would be, please can you spend the weekend looking into it properly? And when you do, what you'll find is that the situation is immensely serious, so much so that last week a report came out from the UN saying we are firmly on course to miss the target of staying below 1.5 degrees of global overheating. And what that means, to translate that for any listeners, is that's the safe limit, and we are going to miss it. That's the brutal reality. And it would just be such a wonderful thing if we could have a prime minister who was prepared to look that reality in the face and then to go to COP and take the truth with him and take the understanding of where we're at with him.
He clearly, wasn't he, at the time, thought it was a useful thing to suggest when he'd just become prime minister that, look, you know, I'm going to get my head down and sort out the UK's issues. It's a mistake of the visuals then, you believe. He just made the wrong decision as far as his image was concerned.
But look, Tony, this goes so far beyond visuals. This is about whether we're going to have a future that we can be proud of to bequeath to our children, or whether we're going to go on a descent into a worse and worse situation of greater and greater vulnerability. Remember the extreme record-breaking heat wave that we had this summer. Do we really want a future where we get more and more of that? Now, if Mr. Sunak looks into the science, if he talks to myself and my colleagues at the University of East Anglia, world-leading climate scientists, if he talks to us candidly, what he will find is that, if anything, the reality is even worse than what's in the scientific papers that get published. Because, you know, Tony, scientists only publish what they can prove. If you get to speak to them over a beer at the end of the evening, as I do, they will always tell you that they are scared for themselves. They are sad for their children. They want to see a future which is not like this. And what I want to see is Mr. Sunak engaging with those facts and starting from that basis.
The inference there, Rupert, is that you're almost accusing him of being a climate change denier, saying he won't engage with the facts. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying that. I just don't think he knows enough about the situation. And let's face it, that's not unusual. There is a wide degree of lack of sufficient understanding of how serious our predicament is. So I would urge the Prime Minister, come and speak to us, spend the weekend researching, and then go to el-Sheikh and say to the world, you know what? I was wrong. I'm sorry. I didn't understand how serious this predicament is.
So
wouldn't it just be so refreshing if we had a political leader who was prepared to actually admit that they'd done something wrong, admit that the situation is worse than they realised, and then start to show? That would be the start of actually showing some leadership.
Okay, well, you could argue the fact he's changed his mind is as far as most of them will go, but you're saying really in kind of in blunt political terms, he thought it would look better to the electorate here if he was concentrating on the economy, when you're saying the future of the world is a little bit more important than the UK economy. That's what we're saying.
Well, it is, but also there's another key dimension here, which is that in terms of the cost of living crisis, it's literally just the other side of the coin of the climate crisis, in the sense that what we need to do is we need to have a massive government program of insulation, of renewable energy, government-supported programs. If we want to take care of our children, if we want to give them warm and comfortable futures, both this winter and for the rest of our lives, we're going to go down the win-win path of getting serious about making green available to everyone at low cost. If we do that, if Sunak goes to el-Sheikh and shows some leadership saying, we in the UK are actually going to start doing that, then maybe people would be a little bit more interested in what he's got to say. They would actually think that he's speaking the truth rather than just saying what he thinks is politically convenient.
Just a very final thought, and briefly, if you can, how important is it? Because you know, there'll be those who are saying, "Well, hang on a minute, why not do all this virtually and just have everyone staying at home and saving the planet that way?" So, how important is it to have world leaders there? Because most of the discussions, most of the sessions are civil servants behind the scenes, aren't they? So, how important is it to symbolically have the leaders there?
Yeah, so I was at COP26, and you know, sometimes you do actually have to have people in a room together. And wouldn't it just be such a good thing if Sunak were to use this opportunity to say, look, I'm going to level with you about how serious the situation is. And this is worth taking a trip to be in a room for, because this is the future of our civilization. This is the future of our children. And this is about whether or not we really have a long-term solution to the cost of living crisis. We don't want to be dependent upon petro-states and dictators.
Okay.
We want to be able to have a greener future that will make our kids really secure.
Rupert Read, thank you, from the University of East Anglia, Dr. Rupert Read.